Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing something just a little bit different, and I am starting out with some watercolor. I am using this beautiful die cut of a pumpkin that I got from the Creative Cuts Club, and I think this was, I don't know if it was November. I think maybe it was from the November kit. But it's a beautiful pumpkin that's got some florals in it, and what I am doing is I am lightly just outlining where the flowers and the leaves are. And I am going to go ahead and use a little bit of watercolor in those areas to back it. Most oftentimes we see people backing their die cuts with patterned paper, and I didn't really want to do that. I wanted something a little softer and maybe a little bit more, I guess romantic might be the word, even though this is not a romantic layout. It is basically my grandson's first Halloween, which also happens to be his birthday. And it was kind of funny because I had a hard time kind of remembering that I'm actually documenting Halloween here, not his birthday, because I've already documented his birthday party, and we celebrated his birthday the weekend after Halloween, which was like November 2nd. And as I was doing my layout, I kept thinking, oh, it's a birthday layout. It's a birthday layout. No, this is Halloween. This is Halloween. So I had to kind of keep reminding myself about that. So I want it kind of variegated orange, the darker and the lighters. And lighters? Is that even? Lighters makes it sound like it's a cigarette lighter. Anyway, the lighter colors. And I am kind of loosely just following the lines that I had drawn with my pencil. And then I am shading in these two little colors of green for the leaves. Now, if it's not exact, that's okay. There's a little bit of room to play with those white edges from the die cut pumpkin, but even if it goes a little bit outside of it, I'm not too worried about it. That's kind of like the beauty of watercolor is it's supposed to kind of have that flowy kind of feel and that imperfect feel, I think. A little more, like I said, romantic or ethereal or something like that. I don't know. So I'm just checking it out to make sure I got all of the areas covered, because the rest of the pumpkin is going to be yellow. And I do realize that pumpkins are more orange, not yellow, but I've got the orange flowers. I could have actually done it in reverse where the pumpkin was orange and the flowers were yellow, but I am using a little bit of an orangey yellow to get the rest of the pumpkin colored, and I think it looks great when it's done. And I like the slight imperfection of it all. I did wait until the green and the orange were completely dry before putting the yellow on, except in one area I did have to kind of touch up because a little bit of the green ran into the orange. I didn't realize that little area was still wet, and I'm okay with the color going lighter in certain areas and adding a little bit more water. There's the green that I had to kind of touch up. But that is the beauty of watercolor, is you can get that variegated shades, and I just like how it looks. The paper that I'm using is a really inexpensive paper from Staples. I think it's called Bienfang. Super cheap. I don't know that I would use this paper if I was like going to do like a painting of like a watercolor painting. It's not. I think it's more like student grade. It doesn't really say on the pack that I see, but it's perfect for this kind of stuff. So, and you know, if I make a mistake, I don't mind just, you know, getting another piece of it and using it, because it wasn't super expensive. I do have some expensive watercolor paper in a 12 by 12 size, so if I wanted to watercolor an entire sheet for a background or something like that, a 12 by 12 background, I could do that, and I have done that. And I am not the most experienced watercolorer. I'm just learning how to do some of it, and but I didn't want to use, you know, the 12 by 12 paper for this little tiny pumpkin. And then there were some little sprigs on the pumpkin that had little holes in the ends of them, and so that's where those little orange dots are coming into play. Kuretake watercolors that you can get on Amazon. They're like between $30 and $40, but they are pretty good quality, so I do like those. I'm using this yellow paper from Chamel's Go Now Go, so this is an older collection, but I really like the color and it matches my grandson's duck suit just perfectly. And I'm layering up a little bit of washi tape in these areas, a brown floral and then a brown, yellow, and aqua floral. And I do like how that looks, although I need to move it a little bit lower so I have some room above the two. So this is a picture of him with his parents. They're dressed as farmers and he's a duck, so a couple of duck farmers. and then the other photo is a picture of me with him. And the color of yellow of the paper matches his duck suit perfectly. And I left a white border on these two photos so they stand out a little bit, and I'm not going to mat them with anything, and that's a little bit unusual for me. I do typically mat stuff. I have these green pieces of paper, and this is like a floral paper. It's not regular cardstock, and by floral paper, it doesn't have a floral print on it. I mean, it's like stuff they use in floral projects, so it has a texture to it. And it's a little bit, I guess the right word would be fibrous, and I just wrapped it around my paintbrush so that it would get that curl to it, and then I'm playing with how I want these leaves to come off of the pumpkin, because I think the pumpkin does need some leaves. And if you watch my videos and you've seen me scrapbook my grandson, you know that I use a lot of Chamel stuff for his albums. Actually, I use primarily all Chamel stuff, and I have stuff from almost all of her collections still left. So most of these embellishments that I'm going to use are from Go Now Go, because that yellow matches everything in that collection. And there's not going to be a ton of embellishment on here, just simply because the pumpkin is, it's a lot already. It doesn't need a ton more than that. So I'll just add a couple of bits and pieces and then I'll be done. I did add a tag to the right of the photo with me and my grandson, and that is actually from Prima, and I don't know the name of the collection. It's one of their fall collections from a few years back, and so I added that in. It matched pretty well and gave a little bit of visual interest there. And then I am going to glue some leaves onto the sprigs on this pumpkin, and I played around with that for quite a while, just trying to get it right. I didn't want it to like be flying up into the photos. I didn't want it to be too overpowering to the pumpkin. I didn't want it to weigh the pumpkin down. And so at some point I will go back and thin out those sprigs so that they're not quite as heavy. And I do like the way that looks a little bit better. But at this point I'm just going to go ahead and glue on some leaves that were die cut out of that same floral paper. And I like the way that looks. But I don't want so much on there that it's hiding the pumpkin. So I'll be kind of messing around with that for a little bit. Now the photos of my son-in-law and my daughter, I decided to kind of overlap that onto the one of my grandson and I, and that's because there was a little bit of dead space on the one of my grandson and myself. So if I had done it the opposite, I would have cut off the edge of my daughter's body, and I didn't want that to happen. The little heart there is also from that Prima package. I guess I did pull in some of those Prima fall things, and I like the way that looks too. So I'm trying not to limit myself quite as much as I had been, just simply because there's plenty of stuff to go around, but I still really like all of the colors in Shamel's collections, so that's why I use that primarily for his stuff, and I don't have to go searching because it's all in one spot. The little bird is also from the Prima collection. Shamel does have some birds in hers, but they're more cartoon-like and in different colors like purples and blues. So this one matched a little bit better. And I am going to leave my title right across the center there. And I like the mix of the fonts. I ran out of E's, so that's why there's one big E. But I really like it. And then I added some enamel dots, and off screen I added a little bit of those little trees. I somehow had my video turned off and didn't realize it, but that's pretty much going to do it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Thanks again for spending time with me. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time.